My name is Matt Baker. I'm from Houston, Texas, and I'm a general contractor.
Matt, I appreciate you coming on. So we had a very popular episode of the Sweaty Startup with a profit and loss statement where I sat down with my brother. He opened up the inside outs of his lawn care landscaping business, how much money he spent to get started, how he got into the business. He kind of shared some thoughts and views on the business, but what people were most excited about is that he let them know how profitable, how expensive, what the financials look like inside of this business. You've agreed to come on, talk to us a little bit about what you're seeing out there and a little bit about your financials. So I appreciate it. Thanks for coming.
Yeah, no problem.
So tell us a little bit about what exactly is a GC. People talk about this a lot. My understanding is it's the person who puts the vision together. If one construction project requires a plumber, an electrician, an HVAC, many different contractors, you are the person who puts it all together, takes full responsibility for managing all those people and making the construction project a reality.
Yeah, I'd say that's accurate. I mean, some people have different takes on that. You've got the guy in the back of the truck who calls himself a general contractor, but he's doing half the work. And then you have that's one extreme is like someone who maybe only calls in a sub if they can't handle all the workload, but does all the work themselves. And then the other extreme would be what I do, which is subcontract out everything and do none of the work myself.
Perfect. That's exactly what we want. You're the version of a subcontractor or general contractor that is the purest form because you don't do any of the actual labor. So let's talk about it. What's your history? A little bit about you, where you're from, and how you started this journey. How old are you?
I am 37.
Okay.
Let's see here. Like I was telling you on Twitter, I joined the Navy when I was 24 because I was a slacker in college and didn't really do well there and didn't know what I wanted to do. So my dad convinced me to join the Navy, and I was an electrician in the Navy for 6 years, got out. And then I did industrial electrical work around Houston for a while, and that was a good paying job. And through the money I saved in the Navy, and then also some of the money I was saving, making good money out here doing the industrial electrical stuff, I saved enough to buy some houses. And so me and this other guy in California, we bought some properties. And
what year is this?
This was in 2015.
Okay.
So we bought some properties, some single families, and they were in pretty good shape. Didn't really need much work. And then after that, we kind of had the bug. So we bought a multifamily in the Heights, which is like a historical area in Houston. That's a very high value, class A type of neighborhood, I would say. And that thing was just totally dilapidated. It needed everything. We really took on too much project, but it was kind of like that project was the thing that allowed us to cut our teeth and allowed me to learn how to become a general contractor. Our idea was not to become a general contractor. We tried to hire a general contractor, but every quote we were getting was just ridiculous. It was like 25 to 35,000 for a 300 square foot apartment. And we were like, well, that's not going to work. We budgeted 5,000 a unit, which in hindsight was too little, but but we couldn't pay 25,000 a unit. So it ended up being where I started doing the general contracting, figuring out the subs, calling in the subs and doing that. And that was the first big one.
So did you have an extensive kind of work with your hands, handyman, know how to get things done background? Or
not really?
Because that's what intimidates most people about being a GC is okay, I don't know this stuff. I don't know how a plumber works. I don't know how an electrician works. I don't know how the flooring, the drywall, the paint, all of it happens.
Right.
So,
No, I couldn't have come from a more incompetent background to become a GC. I was just I was just overconfident. I was like, yeah, we'll figure it out. Let's do this. And, it was painful. I learned a lot that first 2 years. I didn't know anything. I didn't know how a wall was constructed. I didn't know, I was like, oh, okay. Cutting into the walls. I was like, I just was totally ignorant of all the stuff. But
how many contracts would you say are on those early units? How many contracts did you have to bid out yourself?
I don't know what you mean.
Yeah. How many different, tradesmen did you have to bring in as far as drywall, flooring?
A lot, and I probably got screwed a lot, because when they're talking to you and you don't know the proper vernacular, it's just like blood in the water. They can smell it. It doesn't matter if you read something on the internet. They're going to ask you a question. If you don't know off the top of your head Like if they can tell that you don't know what you're talking about, you're going to get screwed on price, and that's just part of the game, you know. And the way that I protected myself against that was getting as many quotes as possible. I learned that the hard way, you know, after getting screwed a few times, and so no, I would bring in tons of people, and I'm still going through like just dozens of subs. You know, you can't get enough. You need at least 3 go-to guys in every craft, and you know, you start going down the line. You're like demo, framing, HVAC, plumbing, electrical, insulation, drywall, painting. Like, you know, there's like, you're talking about 50, 60 people minimum. And that's like, once you get your book together. So it can be a lot.
Wow. So you spent that first project in 2015 kind of starting to build that book and learn some trades, people that you could trust around the area that are still doing work for you today, or no?
Yeah, I would say so. I definitely like my plumber Lucio. I still use every now and then, I've got a tile guy who I still use. Like, and I got lucky; those were referred from other people. I've since learned that the best way to find a subcontractor is having them referred by another subcontractor. Those guys typically work out really well.
Mm-hmm.
Going off the internet, it's tough. You know, you got to call like 10 guys, and then maybe 1 or 2 of them will be good and reasonably priced. The price variance is incredibly large. You know, like I'll get on one project, it was like a trim out of a house, and like one quote was 12,000 and one was 4,000, and like they're both like good plumbers. Like what the 12,000 guy is definitely more polished, more professional, but I'm like, come on, man, 3 times as much. Like, what are we talking about?
Okay, so it's 2015. You get that first project done. I'm sure that it was a trial and error.
It didn't get done until like 2017 because it was like 14 units, you know. So like, and we didn't have like 200 grand to drop on it. So we're like, okay, we'll remodel these 2 and get these cash flowing. And then as people left, we started remodeling it as we went. So after that, we bought another 6 unit in the Heights, and this one was nicer. And we started the remodel on that. It was kind of the same thing. Needed everything: new plumbing, new electrical, new HVAC, just like basically down to the studs. You know, and it was nice to learn it like that. Because, you know, when you take on a project that big, you learn every single thing you can about the house.
Did you have some experienced people around you? And at what point did you go into this full time? So it sounds like you kind of worked your way in through real estate investing. That's how you kind of spotted this opportunity. You buy your first couple of units. Who was with you? Were you still working full time? And when did you decide, okay, this is real estate investing is my full time thing? Is that what it was at the time?
Yeah, basically. Well, it was. So we started doing this, and then after maybe a year or so, you know, my partner was like, hey, you know, this could be a real thing. This is like this general contracting thing. We can make a lot of money doing this. At the time, I was doing it for free. Like, we weren't marking up at all. And we were just doing it because it was our investment. And then as we started getting other partners in our investments, we started charging for the contracting because, you know, it's really hard. It's really time consuming. It's very stressful. Like, you deserve to be paid for that, adding that value. So in 2017, I think, is when we started upcharging for our services for our internal clients, for our investment properties. And then in maybe in mid 2017, we started quoting other people. And that was a big stepping stone for me, because it's one thing to do a project in-house where I'm the one who looks at it, you know, so no one's over my shoulder checking my stuff. It's just like, hey, it costs what it costs. I got the lowest quote I could, versus I have to predict what it's going to cost ahead of time. That was a very difficult thing to learn. It took me probably about a year or longer to get really good at quoting, to where I could accurately predict the cost top to bottom and not miss and not have to take a big haircut on the project.
Yeah. So this is kind of the way the cycle of your new business now. It sounds like if you're going out to chase third party, they have something they need done, a bathroom remodeled, a basement remodeled, an entire apartment remodeled. You come in, you look at its current shape, and you say, this is how much it's going to cost to get it exactly how you want it. And that's what took you a long time to learn.
Yeah. For sure. Yes, that's all I got.
Okay. So it's 2017 at this point. Sounds like you have a couple real estate investment partners. At what point did you decide to kind of break away, and now it's just you doing just GC work? I'm sure you still do some investing on the side, but now this is your sole purpose, or your sole career. How did that transition happen?
Well, you know, it was just, we had our contracting business last year, and, you know, we did a lot of revenue. Like I was telling you, I think we did like 1.2 or 1.4 million, something in that range of revenue. But, you know, we weren't very profitable. Like, we were profitable, but barely profitable. And it's like, man, why are we going through all this effort, you know, for this low amount of profitability? And in my opinion, it was just too many Chiefs and not enough Indians. It's like it's not a. We were trying to treat it like a business you could scale, and it really is a difficult business to scale. The best way to do it is kind of the way I'm doing it now: is one man operation, build it up slow, and then later you can add, once you're like a known quantity in the community and you're getting a lot of referral business, then you can kind of think about, okay, I can add a sales guy or I can add a project manager and still be profitable. But in my opinion, in the beginning, you have to start on your own, really master it, really get a good reputation. And that's, so in January, I left it to do my own thing. That's what Matt Baker Contracting is now.
January 2020.
Yes, correct.
Okay. So now I'm looking at the profit and loss statement, which will, we might share a version of this in an article format, just like we did on the last episode. Yeah, it's in 6 months. Let's talk about this. I'm excited. So you've done $152,000 in billable sales in the first 6 months of 2020. I guess first of all, the elephant in the room is going to be how did coronavirus? Do you think it decreased this, or did it impact you in any way here when we're looking at this books? Anything we should keep in mind?
No, well, I mean, it's not really 6 months because I didn't fully commit to the contracting thing. Like, I was like on the fence about what I wanted to do. I was like, well, I was kind of burned out on business after leaving my old partnership. And so I was thinking, I was thinking about getting a job. I was like, the amount of money I'm making or the amount of cash I'm making, like the equity I was making was good from the investing, but like the cash wasn't really representing that. I was only paying myself a salary of $50,000 a year, which is like fine. I can get by on low amount of money, but I was like, God, do I really want to go dive into this again and create a new business and like go through all those pain again? But I ended up wanting to do it after talking to a few mentors. They were like, you're not going to get a salary job. Like, you're not going to be happy doing it. You've already tasted business. You're done. You're going to be a business owner. So then I did it. And so this is probably since like March, I would say. And so it's been like a slow build. And it's weird because I've got $150K in revenue right now, but I've got like 300 or 400K in revenue like locked up in contracts. So I'm like, God, I really gotta get these projects done, get to the next ones.
Okay, so it sounds like about 4 months here, you've done some serious bidding. How much, if somebody's looking to start a business like this, how much startup costs are we after? Since you don't do any of the work, I'm assuming you don't need tens of thousands of dollars worth of tools. It's just you and your brain here at work. Am I right?
Yeah, basically. I mean, I'm trying to think here. Like, okay,
maybe a truck to pick up and haul materials, and
I mean, I've got my Civic, so no, I didn't even I pay myself out for that, for tax write-off reasons. But I would say the only hard costs I had or like business overhead is, my own salary, whatever I choose to pay myself. The website, like Squarespace, what is that? Like $40 a month or something like that. Yep. QuickBooks, Asana, Google Admin. And
sounds like a tech company here.
Yeah, it's really lean. It's really lean. So yeah, I mean, that's the good thing about it is, but like, you have to know how to do it. If you don't know how to do it, you're going to take a lot of licks. That's the tricky thing about it. But if I was a young person and getting started in this, there's a few ways you could do it. Like, start up well. It's like you could do a lot of work yourself and just, hey, you sweat equity it, and you're not being efficient, but you do that while you learn until you figure it out. Or maybe you just choose one craft. You're like, I'm the window guy, and you hire a window guy and you get a truck, and then like all you do is bid windows. And then once you get that business going, then you can kind of, okay, we'll do windows and doors and siding or whatever you're going to do.
And bring on a sub to do those other things. And the way it kind of works is, for the people who don't understand construction, the subcontractor, the person who gets paid for the job is not always the person doing the job. You're kind of the middleman here. So the end consumer pays you the $152,000, and then you pay out all the individual, what you call subcontractors, to do the physical work. And I'm looking at your list here. You got cabinets, you have countertops, you have demo, you have doors and trim, you have drywall, electrical, framing, garage doors, glass, these other line items, basically, that I'm doing my math here. It's about 66% of the overall build work. So you, as the mastermind, to put it all together, get a 36% profit billed to the customer to do this stuff.
Okay. I didn't look at the ratio. I should know that probably off the top of my
head. your margin is 34%. So of that 152,000 that you build, 49,000 of that goes in your pocket. So that's great. So as we kind of project out these additional contracts, it's tough to dive into the profit and loss like we did in the lawn care example, because you are literally just bidding out jobs, subcontracting it to other providers, let's talk about let's walk us through a bathroom or a kitchen, or kind of the way that you frame how to bill, how to determine your profitability on a given project. If you just want to have an example project that we can talk about.
You're saying like from the customer calls me to the contract's accepted through the build, the whole thing?
Yeah.
So I would say like, okay, so most of my business I've been getting now is through people I know. I called a few people. I called everyone that I thought would be like, in this realm, like, hey, I'm on my own. I'm doing business now. Do you know anything? Do you know anyone that's looking for something? I called all my old clients. Hey, I'm on my own. If you're looking for something, let me know. And that's how I got my first few jobs. So with them, it was easy. They already knew what I was about. But let's say I would go in, and the first thing I would do, especially if it was a client that I didn't know at all, I would pre-qualify them on the phone. And I don't always do a good job of this because I get excited about getting the sale. I'm like, I'm on my way over. Let's do this. But it's very important to make sure that the customer has good price expectations. Because some people just don't know how much things cost. Like I'll usually over the phone, I'll tell people like, okay, if you want a kitchen, minimum, you're looking at 20K, cabinets, counters, and that's like a pretty basic remodel. And then bathroom, I might tell them 15K, like that's kind of like where our starting points are for full remodel kitchen, full remodel bathroom. And I'll make sure they're like plus or minus within a realm of reasonability there.
That they are a potential customer. You're making sure that they are a potential customer.
Because I didn't know this, but before I started doing this, but like people just like, they'll be like, what? No, I only have a $5,000 budget. I'm like, it's just impossible for us to work together. I couldn't even do it. Like I would lose money if I did it at that price. Like I can't even do it with the cheapest materials, which I wouldn't even be comfortable using anymore. I want to make sure there's a certain quality level because that's the type of business I'm trying to grow towards. But anyway, so I'd pre-qualify them over the phone. If we were like in the realm of reasonability, then I would come over and I would just kind of have a conversation with them about, like, what are you looking to do? Show me, what stuff are you thinking? What does your Pinterest board look like? Or whatever your inspiration is or whatever your vision is for this remodel, let me know. So they'll tell me. And then from that, I'll start to put together a quote. Ideally, we would get some plans together, and that's kind of hit and miss. Some customers are good with paying for plans. Some are not. Ideally in the future, I'm going to only work with customers that are willing to pay for plans because it's kind of a red flag when they don't. Like usually it means we're going to have some price issues later on because, they're too price sensitive, and that's okay. It's okay to be price sensitive.
When you say plans, you mean having an architect or somebody draw out what's going to look like? Correct.
Yeah. And then because it's without the plans, it's easy to run into issues that you didn't predict. You're like, oh yeah, like we're like visualizing this kitchen. You're like, yeah, all this is going to be good. And then you start putting the cabinets in and you're like, oh wait, hold up. This cabinet drawer can't open because there's a windowsill in the way. And if we would have done the plans right, we would have realized that, or, like you have to look out for weird things like that. So anyway, we'll get the plans together and then I'll build a quote. And my quote is very, very detailed. It's line item by line item, top to bottom, in order of how I'm going to do the project. It's like demo. Okay, demo the cabinets, demo the counter, demo the sink, demo the faucet. And each of those line items has a dollar figure assigned to it based on my absurd trial and error of like figuring out how much things cost. That was like the most difficult thing about making this contracting business, was making this quote spreadsheet, because it's like 1,000 line items. And I just had to figure out how much every single thing costs. And I could not think of a different way to do it because it can be challenging, to work through that.
An example is I was trying to get my basement done, and I was writing a couple things down, and I was like, oh, this is simple. It's electrical, it's plumbing, and it's flooring, and it's drywall, and that's about it. And then you get in and you realize there's about 30 other things that you did not even account for, all the way down to the blinds that are $1,000 that I need to install in 4 windows, right? So you basically built out a spreadsheet with every single step of your entire job process. So this is basically your process manual of when I go into a job, these are the 900 things that I'm going to need to make sure happen. Some of them don't happen on every job, obviously. But
the blank spreadsheet is 1,000 lines. But when I go through it, I'm deleting everything that's not applicable. I'm like, oh, we're not doing any exterior work. There goes 200 line items, and like just going through. And at the end of a normal quote might have 100 to 200 line items, because it's just like, there's just not that many steps for each job. But like you said, I'm even guilty of, I'll look at a job and I'll try and like ballpark it. I'm like, oh yeah, I don't know, 12K. Yeah, we can get it done for 12K. And then once I start breaking it down step by step, I'm like, oh, what about the shower glass? They want shower glass. Oh, what about this tile? Well, are you going to spend $10 a square foot or 20 a square foot? And like, you have to nail down all those details to really give them an accurate bid.
Seems like managing expectations is critical here.
It's really, really important. And I think I'm good at it, and I still mess up all the time. Like I had a guy mad at me on Friday because we had a change order, and I thought I made it clear to him that, the change order was because we were demoing out tile, and the walls were like old school, and they were like 1-inch thick concrete walls. So my demo guy was like, hey, we quoted this assuming it was like a hardy backer behind the tile, which is typical now, but it's like, this is concrete. It's going to take like hours just to remove the shower tile. And so I had to change order him, and he wasn't happy about it. And so I was like, I should have told him, hey, this is a possibility. Like, right when we open this wall, this might be messed up. So I just want you to be mentally prepared for that. And if you do that, they're pretty good. But when it comes out of left field and they don't expect it coming, then you can get a lot of anger. And they're not even mad at me. I've realized they're mad because they have to spend the money, and I'm just the person in front of them that gets to absorb the anger.
It's like these flip shows we watch on TV. The general contractor is always the bad guy because they say, come in here and look at what we found underneath the floor here, and look how much extra it's going to cost us.
Yeah. And it's tough. I mean, you have to really get that trust of the client, because there are guys, I mean, it's very common for contractors to go out. I don't do this, but let's say more nefarious contractors might go out to a job, intentionally underquote it, know that it's underquoted, and then change order them later, knowing that once you're in a project, what are you going to do? Oh, no, I'm not doing that change order. It's like, well, you have to in order to finish the project. And it can be challenging. And so customers will sometimes feel like you're screwing them over, you're nickel and diming them. And it's just really important to get that trust so that
have you kind of had to, so what you're going to do is you're making this spreadsheet and you're putting down what you think your costs are going to be to get this part of the job done. Mm-hmm. You're putting yourself in the minds of these individual contractors, and you're kind of figuring out their thought process, and their bids are not surprises to you if everything goes well, right? You know exactly what they're going to bid for this amount of work. Do you have to find yourself?
Pretty good. I'm pretty good. I still miss every now and then, but every time I do, I adjust the spreadsheet. Okay, whoops, need to put more there, and that's how it goes. At this point, I'm really good. Like I can go in. I'm better at quoting the jobs than the subcontractors are. The subcontractors just go in and they just look at it and they're like, I don't know, 3,000. And I'm like, what is your basis for this price? And I tried to talk to the subcontractors and be like, tell me how you quote. That way I never have to beat you up on price. If I know what you charge, then all I have to do is charge that and put my markup on it. But they just don't know. They just don't have an analytic mind like that, where they think to break down like, okay, like let's say $200 per line I have to move if I'm an electrician. Like that's what I budget for. They don't even realize that that's how they're quoting it, but it is. So that's very challenging.
And man hours is another thing, right? Because you want your subs to make money. You're not trying to get your subs to take a haircut. You're saying, okay, if they're going to spend 8 hours doing this job, 2 men, we got to bill $100 an hour per man to cover them and their overhead and their risk and everything else. Do you find yourselves saying, okay, look, I think your job that you're quoting me right now is going to take this long, this much material. This is how you're going to make money, and this is what you should bid.
I'm not that experienced to where I can tell them how long it's going to take. Mm-hmm. Sometimes they surprise me all the time. Like sometimes it'll be like, I'll think something will take like a few days and they're done in like 4 hours. And I'm like, how did this happen? Like, how is this possible? Like, I don't know. It's weird. And there's a huge discrepancy between different subcontractors. Some guys are just so good at their job. Like I've got a drywall guy, insane. He'll just come in and he'll just finish like an entire house of drywall in like 2.5 days. And I'm like, I don't understand. Like it's crazy. And it's perfect. Everything's perfect. The drywall texture is perfect. It's incredible. Yeah, so I don't even try and predict timelines.
So we got four months worth of work here that I'm looking at your revenue and expenses. We have 152,000 in revenue. We have 102,000 that you paid out to individual contractors. You said you work about 40 hours a week. That includes your admin work, your marketing. Some basic math here. You're near $80 an hour for your time per man.
Are you counting, is that net profit or gross profit that you're calculating that based on?
Gross profit.
Okay. I would count net profit. I mean, those other expenses are there.
Okay, let's see. So net profit is it 13,000?
Yeah, but if you add in those reimbursable expenses and the lawyer's fees, that's like the true net profit. Because like I said,
we're around 40 instead of 50 then, okay. I would say. Yeah. So you're about 60 you're about $60 an hour, but you've also in that time you've tied up a lot more work to come. It sounds like you have several $100,000 worth of work in the pipeline. So we're going to have to come on to really get a feel for this later on. But I think $75 an hour is a pretty good estimate to where you're at, possibly higher once you get in your rhythm here.
Yeah.
So what are you seeing out there as far as...
rhythm. It's pretty chill.
I love it. Okay. So some advice for somebody who might want to get into this. You started to talk about it. Now I want to kind of get your thoughts. You have somebody who's without a lot of experience. What's the best method to say, okay, if I want to start learning construction, I want to start learning what Matt knows about making a project become a reality. Where do I start?
So the best way to start, which I wish I would have done, I didn't know I was going to like this stuff so much at the beginning, right? The advice I've gotten from other builders that are more experienced than I am is that you join like a track home builder, like a David Weekley type. And apparently they just train the hell out of you, and you just learn the building process from top to bottom, and you work with them for 2 to 4 years or something like that. Really, like once you have it down pat, then you go work for like a custom home builder. And then that's kind of how you learn how to do the pretty stuff. Now you're working with custom trim cabinetry makers, really good tile guys. And through this whole process, you're also building your subcontractor book. That's a lot of the value in being a subcontractor. Like the difference between an inexperienced general contractor, and a experienced general contractor is the experienced general contractor, he doesn't have to mess around with the subs. He has all his subs down. He's been working with them for 10 years. Like there's no question about like any work quality issues. If it's messed up, he knows they're going to come back. They've got this history together. And so that's something that I learned. It's like, it's not just enough. Like even if someone else gives me a phone number of the sub that's good for them, he doesn't know me. He might not return my call. He might not prioritize my job. He might bid me higher because he doesn't know me. He doesn't even know if he's going to get paid, because apparently that's an issue. But yeah, that's how I would recommend if someone wanted to get in general contracting.
Sounds or like if you want to do the hard, very personable business network and trust.
It's a huge trust issue. I'm pretty good about paying my subcontractors on time. And that's helped me out a lot, I think. I mean, that's just an honorable thing to do. I wouldn't think of like stiffing these guys on money, but apparently it's a problem they have all the time. So if you're the guy that gives them work and pays them on time, like it's very easy to get a subcontractor loyal to you in a short period of time. Like 2-3 jobs, they start to see, oh, this guy's consistent. This guy, he's not going to screw me over. He does what he says he's going to do. He shows up on time, et cetera, et cetera.
Okay. So it sounds like communication is critical. How do you, and guys that only want to talk on the phone or talk in person about what is expected, I know firsthand that when you're on the phone with somebody and you could have a 20-minute conversation about what everybody's supposed to do, you get off the phone, I draft an email about what I understood of it, and they're like, whoa, that's not right. I didn't understand it that way. And those discrepancies for you can mean thousands of dollars. If right. Something is not put in the right place, if something isn't communicated correctly, how do you go about foolproofing that line of communication?
Tough. Well, there's no foolproofing it, right? So my strategy is I don't ever assume that they know anything. If I think there might be a chance for miscommunication, I am explicitly stating it, whether I'm texting them or whether I'm on the job site. So step one is you have to meet the subcontractors on site. Now, I broke this rule. Well, it wasn't a rule before when I was working full-time and doing it on the side. I would have to be on the phone, because I'm working a job. But after I went full-time and I started being like hands-on more, not hands-on of doing the work, but just like being on site more often, I realized like it's so much easier if I'm just like walking with the plumber. I'm like, no, this right here is where the stub out needs to be for the kitchen sink. And then I mark it with a pencil, because these guys, they think they're going to remember. They don't remember. So I mark it somehow. I'm like, no, this is kitchen sink. And I write kitchen sink on the stud. And then I'm like, boom, over here, toilet drain. And we'll like on the ground, we'll draw toilet drain. And I'm like, it's exactly 12 inches from the wall. It's exactly 15 inches from this wall. That's where it is, right there. And then like, if they screw it up, there's nothing they can say. It's like, dude, we marked it. We walked it. It had to be exactly there. But it helps a lot. Like, especially once they know that if they mess up, you're going to make them come back. They don't want to come back. So they start learning to do it right.
Okay. So you have an inside look at a lot of a huge economy that the average person knows nothing about. The average person walks into buildings and they are tools to get their work done or just get in and out, do whatever. Many people are in a bubble as to how these things are built, the planning, the skill required that is going into this stuff. You're saying there are a ton of bad contractors out there. My whole pitch here with the Sweaty Startup is that entrepreneurship is not all about tech startups and venture capital. And these things that are getting done by old school folks who are not necessarily business minded. Just talk a little bit about the opportunity that you see out there and just the general environment for these services, what it would take to succeed if you just picked one, and what maybe what subcontracts on this list do you think are particularly profitable, whether it be the counters, the cleaning, the cabinets, the glass, the framing, the paint, the plumbing? What are you seeing out there as far as the demand? And I guess you can only speak to the Houston market, but I have a feeling that this is going to translate to everywhere in America that has a growing population and the need for remodels and new builds and so on.
Right. Well, I would say let's start with general contracting. The bar is so insanely low to be a good general contractor. Like most general contractors don't answer phone calls. They're hard to get a hold of. They're dishonest. I wouldn't say most are dishonest, but there's enough dishonest ones where if you're the honest guy, like that's almost enough right there. If you can get people to trust you, you're probably going to be fine. And if you aren't just totally incompetent and messing up jobs all the time, people understand, and most customers understand that there's going to be some mistakes, and if you get it fixed, they don't care. They might care at the moment, but after it's done, it's like, okay, whatever, they handled it. So I'd say that's a huge opportunity, is just the incredibly low level of customer service that most general contractors provide makes it very easy to stand out. Number two,
so many people just work with one guy too. So many people that they don't have any desire to, and this is something I just interrupted you. You were just going to say number two, but I want to talk about this afterwards, but go on to number two.
Okay. Number two is that general contractors are really old. So that's important for two reasons. Number one, they're not going to be around for forever. We're talking, I think the average age of a contractor is 55. So what's in 10 years, who the hell is going to be doing this work? Because young people aren't getting into it. It's very top heavy industry. So there's that element of, if you just stick this out for 5 years and then already half of them have retired, there's people need this type of work. It's never going to go away. And then also they aren't good with technology. It's easy to set yourself apart for those reasons. It's look, I'm going to text message you. I know how I can do that, and I don't need to have the font gigantic or whatever. I don't know why some of these guys just refuse to adopt new technologies, but whatever the reasons are, it's holding them back business wise. And it's easy
getting contracts on DocuSign, communicating plans by email, all that stuff that can make you more efficient and faster.
Yes.
That just doesn't happen.
Right.
Sending invoices. I have a lawn care guy in New York that sends me invoices by taking a picture of an invoice that he was going to fax me and texting me the picture because he can't.
I deal with that all the time with subcontractors. I just deal with it. I'm like, fine. With the subcontractors, I'm like, are you good value? And, can I rely on you? And that's it. And there's a lot of unprofessional stuff you put up with subcontractors because
that's your job. Yeah, your job is to smooth those edges. Your job is to smooth those edges and bridge that gap. And really, you are bringing the work to these folks that don't care about marketing, that don't care about growing their business. They work with one guy, and they keep working with the one guy. And then when somebody like me, like Nick in Athens, Georgia, needs some work done on his house, I call all the same guys that are really good doing work for guys like you all the time, and none of them even bother answering the phone. And I want you to challenge me on this, because I have this thought where I recommend people not to be a sub. Why would you be a sub when you're working for the same guys on the same money that you were working for them 10 years ago? Yes, there are great things about that. Yes, recurring revenue, they're going to pay for you. It's predictable. But at the same time, if you opened up the doors to do work outside for the regular customer, could go find your own customers yourself who were calling around for plumbers and framers and shower guys and tile guys, you could charge double. Am I right? I recommend not to be a sub, because if you can bring in your own work, there's exponential value there.
Well, I guess it's a personal decision, because working with general contractors is very easy if you're a sub, and working with retail clients is not easy at all. It's horrible. And for some reason, these guys have no patience at all. I remember one time this tile guy, I don't know, he didn't meet me somewhere when he was supposed to. And I was like, hey man, that's kind of unprofessional for you to not show up. And he was like, screw you, I'm never talking to you again. These guys fly off the handle, for stuff that I'm not even yelling at this guy. I'm very even keeled. So these guys, they probably couldn't even do it retail if they wanted to, because the customer service is so far away from what it would need to be. So I would say that, I think that being a sub is a really good deal. I look at the amount of time, so I would say number one, it's repeatable. It's a lot easier to train someone under you, to be a framer or electrician. Electrician is I was an electrician. It's so easy in a house. It's black and white and ground. That's 90% of the wiring, unless you're doing a 220 volt receptacle or something. It's insanely easy. It's just make the black wire, change the black wire. and then make it touch this other black wire, and then take it back to the breaker and plug it in. It's like I could teach someone how to be a household electrician in like 20 minutes. Like, it's insane how easy it is. All the hard stuff about it that I don't know is like, okay, where am I supposed to drill the hole in the stud so I don't like violate its integrity, and like things like that, like little details. But these guys make good hourly money. And if you had any
which one's your favorite? If you were going to tell somebody, okay, let's get into a trade.
I think electrician would be the best because it's the easiest. It's like you don't have to lift heavy stuff that much.
You're not beating up your body.
It requires a little bit of brain work. So it kind of gives you a little bit of a moat from other subs, or it's like some guys are just scared of electricity and they won't work with it. So like there's less supply. The only downside is you have to get a license, right? So I would say if you're 16 and you want to be rich, you should go become an apprentice electrician right now. And then by the time you're a journeyman, which takes 4 years approximately, then you can open up your own shop. You hang your license under a master, and then you're making like 100 to 200 an hour. Like, and all you have to do is go into your phone book, call every general contractor on the list. Hey, I'm an electrician. I'm going to save you money. What jobs do you have? I'll do them. I'll come quote them. And then once you're in their book, you're going to get all the business you can handle by a large margin. So okay. Yeah, I would choose electrician.
That's a startup right there. Get your license. Make a phone call to every single guy like you, Matt, in the book, and they are hurting for subs so bad that they're going to have you on at least once, right? You're going to get that shot with every single one of them.
And, maybe not every one of them, but like I bet like 25% of them probably need an electrician for one thing or another at any given time, and their electrician's busy or something. Like, it's so easy to get in with the general contractor. So that's what I would say the benefit of working with a general contractor was, if you were a sub, is like infinite business. Because some of these general contractors, they're doing 3-4 million a year. If you just work for them, you'd have a profitable business. And if you're working for multiple people, like, you're really killing it.
But the GC cares about one thing, and that's every dollar he pays you is a dollar that he can't keep at the end of the day, right? So it's not as profitable as retail, right? Retail.
No, but retail it's harder because it's like, okay, you're going to get people calling you about like, hey, my receptacle doesn't work. It's like, okay, do you take those calls? Like, because something that I didn't realize before I started general contracting is the larger the job, the better my hourly rate is. Right. And so it doesn't matter.
You're driving your truck out for the job.
Huge. I mean, like, because no one charges for their quote time, even though we probably should. And maybe I will at some point if I have like so many leads I can't handle. I'm like, look, it's $100 if you want me to come out and give you a consultation. But I don't do that right now. And most people don't. And it's like that time, like having to go out to someone's house and then like, oh, it's going to be $250. It's like that $250 that you're going to make replacing their receptacle is like barely worth your time to just go out there in the first place. And then what, they say no, or they argue with you about the price. It's like, it could be a big problem. Like for electricians and subs, they want the biggest jobs possible. And you just don't get that via retail.
Okay. Love it.
So it's a whole different business model, I think.
You're doing a good job talking me out of it. I appreciate this. So let's talk about some other subcontracting areas that you think are big opportunities for, I won't even say young. I'll just say somebody who's interested in this stuff. Somebody who's interested, wants to start a business working for guys like you, or building or repairing or remodeling. What other areas? I mean, I know HVAC in upstate New York. I called 10 HVAC contractors and not a single, maybe one of them answered the phone, and they bid double what my budget was. So I had to get up and hang the damn, whatever you call those metal pipes. I hung them myself in the storage facility just because I had no other option. Yeah. Right. Where are you really struggling finding quality people?
So the three most important subs are HVAC, plumbing, and electrical.
And they call those the mechanicals, right?
What?
They call those the
HVAC
mechanicals.
And mechanical is no, mechanical and HVAC are the same thing. Like that's what you call mechanical. And then plumbing and electrical, MEP. Those are the most important because if you get everything behind the walls right, like the rest of the job's easy. It's just a matter of what materials you're installing really affects the look. I mean, you have to worry about your tile guys and whatnot. But anyway, those three are the most important to a general contractor. So
they are the most profitable, right? Those are the ones that you're paying the most money.
I mean, I'm not looking at their books, but I would assume that they're charging the most for the relative to the amount of work they're doing. I think tile is a huge one. Tile's probably the easiest one to get into. I'm sorry. I lost my train of thought. Oh yeah, tile's probably the easiest one to get into without needing a license or without any experience. Like you could probably learn how to tile in I don't know, 2 weeks because it's all about attention to detail. Like the tile guys that suck, they're just rushing through it. They don't really give a shit. And then like they they mess up the grout, and it's just like the tile's all about attention to detail. So if you're the type of person that has good attention to detail and you just like do a few tile jobs for cheap, it's very easy to fill your book up. Because those guys, they charge like, I think I budget for $15 a foot for wall tile labor. So like, That's a lot. Yeah. And that's like, I can't do cheaper than that. Like the cheap guys are like $10 a foot for wall tile, and they kind of suck, And so it's like, okay, well, I don't want that.
I had a very similar
you just have to pay what you have to pay because of the market.
I needed my shower tiled in my basement, and I made 10 calls on Google. Not a single one answered the phone. I called every tile shop then and said, hey, do you have a book of people you recommend? And they said, yeah, we do. They gave me a bunch of people, didn't have any websites or anything. I texted them all my name and said, hey, call me. I have a shower that I need tiled. I sent a couple pictures to all of them. I was going to make it really easy so they didn't even have to drive out to quote it. And I was getting labor quotes for $2,000, $4,000 for one shower. And I was calling like, hey, that's a little high. And one guy was just like, you have no idea what's high and what's not. And he hung up on me. One guy ended up coming in. One guy ended up coming in under $1,500, and I had to hire him. It was crazy how hard it was to find a tile person. Insane.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, that's the market, right? It's like we can sit here and say it's too high. Well, it's like, well, I'm not going to do the fucking the shower, so I guess it's a good price.
Yep. They can charge whatever they need to charge. You're right.
And a good tile guy is like, man, bad tile looks so horrible. Like you really cannot cheap out on tile. If you want to have a good product, like for rental, it's whatever. You can use cheap guys. Like no renter is going to say, oh, this grout line looks a little thick. That's not a big deal.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so any other general overview thoughts of what you're seeing out there as an insider in the construction industry? I mean, we have on the outside we have so many questions because we know that it's a huge economy, a huge problem where there's just not enough folks doing this work. Big opportunities for young entrepreneurs. Any other thoughts you have on that as far as like the sweaty startup mentality of, hey, let's learn to do something with our hands and build a business around it?
I think it doesn't matter what craft you choose. Like there's demand for every single craft. I would just say choose, if you wanted to go down that road of being a subcontractor, just choose something you like to do. Don't be a painter if you hate painting, or don't be a tile guy if you hate tile. Like, but if you choose any one of the main crafts, which I would say are demo's dumb. You don't want to do that. It's too unskilled. It's a great way to get into the business, honestly. Like you can start with demo and then become a demo and a framer and then like kind of build up like that. But demo, framing, plumbing, HVAC, electrical, drywall, paint, insulation, tile, and that's it. That's the big ones. Like if you choose one of those, like you can have infinite business if you want it.
That's amazing.
Yeah, it's really crazy.
That's an amazing opportunity. I love it. Okay, so what's next for you? It sounds like you, and if you're like Matt, where you can communicate and you can market and you can set expectations with people and you're organized and detail oriented, you're the kind of guy who can make the big money and not do any of the work.
That's true.
Right?
Yeah.
You're there, you're overseeing it, you're taking the risk, but you have your ducks in a row, and they're paying you handsomely for that.
Yeah. It's tough. I mean, being a general contractor is very hard. Like what I don't like about being a general contractor is it's very difficult to scale. It's hard for me to bring on someone, train them, because, sometimes I'm insecure about my own knowledge. I'm like, do I know enough to be training someone to do this? Like I'm still kind of figuring out this and that on the way. And also, it's just like, I can't bring my energy and my passion. I can't train that, and it's hard that's very important and people need that. And I noticed that once I stopped managing projects, that's where there was a kind of a disconnect of, it's like I'm the owner and I bring that owner energy, and that's why it's so effective when I'm doing it. And when it's someone else, it's harder to get that. And it's, without giving someone equity in the business, I think it'd be hard because then it's just a job to them and it's hard to blame them for that. So I would say that's a difficulty of general contracting, very difficult to scale profitably. And that's the benefit of a subcontractor. So for me, I'm either going to, I've got two directions I can go, and I don't know which way I'm going to go. I can choose a niche. I can be like, I'm the kitchen guy, or I'm the bathroom guy, or both, or whatever it is. And then that's easier to scale. It's a lot easier to teach someone, hey, here's how you quote a kitchen, because it's only like cabinets, maybe they move a wall, whatever, some electrical, some plumbing, Boom. That's something you can do over and over and over
75-point
again.
list instead of 1,000. Yeah.
Exactly. Right. So that's a lot easier to train. And then I could get in with the manufacturers of the cabinets and get a discount there and become, get an office and become that guy. So that's one option. That's like the scalable route. Cause like I could scale that a lot bigger than a general contracting where it's like custom everything. This has to be exactly this. You've got to really measure everything. You've got to choose every material. You've got to look up the dimensions of every material, verify it's going to work with this and that and da-da-da. There's all these things that can go wrong. That takes a lot of experience to be able to spot. So the other option would be leaning all the way into the custom route and just like, I'm the product, I'm the general contractor, and I'm just going to do it for a very good fee. I'm going to work with architects and do custom homes that cost $3 million or something like that. And then that's another option where it's like, okay, I still have a job, but it's a very handsomely paying job. And it's a really cool job because you get to make awesome stuff.
Yep. And you can just keep raising your prices until you're making the money that you're happy making. Without scaling a company, exactly. You can make $500,000 or $750,000 yourself doing the work you like to do.
Yeah, definitely.
I like it. So the specialty seems like the big the big contracting groups, they almost always specialize in a certain area. It's either
right.
Yeah. Okay. So I want to touch a little bit on that home builder point. You said it's somebody getting started. Start with a home builder. Why did you mention that? Why did you say one of the best ways to get into general contracting?
Like that's what the other builders told me, and that's what their experience was. Because like when I was thinking about getting a job, I was like, what if I just go work for a custom home builder for like $80,000 or $100,000 a year or whatever they were going to pay? And all of them were like, you really want to get that what's it called? Production builder. That's what it's called. David Weekley and all the track home builders are production builders. And apparently they're the ones who train you up on all the systems and processes to really set you up for your whole career. That's why they said to do that.
They're the guys that buy a 200-acre piece of property outside of a town and put 50 homes on it. Is that about right? They'll build 50 very similar
200
homes.
or 500 or whatever it is. Yeah.
Yep. Okay. Awesome. Love it. I guess sales is the question I want to ask you, because it seems like everything you do is sales. You're selling your customers, you're selling your subs to do it your way and to be happy about it. Is there any specific sales approach that you have as far as the way you communicate with customers, gain trust with them, deal with your subs, interact with them, gain trust with them? Because subs are entitled. They have all the work they could possibly want. How do you convince them to come?
They have all the power. Honestly.
Exactly. Yeah. So how do you manage that?
Well, I'm not great at I've read a lot of sales books, and I'm sure some of that has bled into my approach, but I wish I was better at maybe controlling what I was saying more than I am. I'm very naturalistic in the way I communicate, but I think that helps because it engenders a lot of trust. I'm there, I'm giving it to them straight. I'm not really trying to, be flowery. I really should sell my company more than I do. I should be here's some pictures of what I've done. Look at this. I use all the best subs. The quality is going to be great. I'm only going to use good materials. I'm not going to use stuff from China or, whatever it would take, whatever sort of pitch it would take. I don't do that. I should. But I think honestly, it's all about trust. If you can get them to trust you, I've walked in the door and I just say, oh no, you shouldn't do that. That's just too expensive. Why don't you do this instead? Because if you were trying to stay within X amount of budget, that's going to eat your whole budget. And then you don't know what trouble you're going to get into when you remove this wall or whatever. I try and talk people out of their scope of work a lot because they don't understand how much extra time it's going to add and how much cost it's going to add. And I think that makes people trust me too.
Yeah, you're helping them manage their budget. I love it.
Yep.
Any last thoughts you have for the sweaty startup community of a bunch of scrappy people willing to look at some of these areas as far as an entrepreneurial opportunity?
No, I think that's it. I think that just there's a huge opportunity, infinite opportunity. It's just that no one wants to be a painter. That's why people don't want to get into it. At the end of the day, there's a lot of excuses, but I think at the end of the day, it's I don't want to get sweaty.
Yeah.
But I think this viewership is a little different, I guess.
We love it. We love that stuff.
Theoretically, yeah.
I appreciate your time, Matt. Thanks for coming on.
Thank you.
We'll catch up in a year when you are doing even more and you have even more that you can share. And as you go about this stuff, think about opportunities and thoughts and the way that you see subs managing businesses that you could improve upon. Anytime you have some ideas, you want to hop on a call, we'd be more than happy to gain some of your insight and knowledge.
Yeah, that'd be great. And hey, you should put a link to my Instagram or something in here. I'll email it to you afterwards because that's got a list. That's got a picture of all my work.
where can people read about you, learn about you? And I'll link to your website, obviously. But if they want to follow along as you, I enjoy following you on Twitter. Where should people? Can you give a shout out of where people can learn more about you?
Yeah, I would say the Instagram is probably the best place. That's where I put all my contracting, like after photos. I forgot what my thing is.
Who's
I'm not
your
a great
ideal
marketer.
customer? What are you looking at? Somebody who just bought a house and wants to make that house better? Is that your bread and butter?
Most of my customers are people that have been in their houses for 10 years and they're like, I'm going to stay here, but I want it to be nicer. You know, it's like they never upgraded it in the first place. And they're like, okay, I didn't know whether I was going to sell or not. That just seems to be how it's going.
That's
yeah,
great.
my ideal
What's your
customer is
Instagram
someone
handle?
that's like, is it Matt Baker Contracting? You're right. Let me find it.
Yep, it is MATTBAKER Contracting. And I'm looking at beautiful showers, amazing kitchen.
Yeah, that white kitchen, that white and black shower, or I'm sorry, bathroom. That one just finished. It's really, really good. The picture was fantastic.
It's got wood on the bottom.
Oh, on the shower, it's a teak floor. It's like waterproof. Yeah, it's really cool.
This is great. Got to be rewarding. This kind of work has to be so much more rewarding than sitting behind a computer trying to get clicks as a digital marketer.
That's the benefit, right? That's why you do all the pain in the ass stuff, because it is a lot. It's like there's just always stuff going wrong, and there's no way to systematize out of it, because you can't systematize a subcontractor. You know, they're going to make mistakes, and then it's your job to fix the mistakes. So it just comes to the territory. But when you see something like that at the end, you're like, this is awesome.
Yep. Congratulations. I'm assuming you're not going to look back. You'll be one of those guys who never has a real job.
Yeah, probably.
Love it. Thanks for coming on, man. Appreciate it.
All right. Thank you. Bye.